Rogue One, marked as Rogue One: A Star Wars Story, is a 2016 American epic space opera film directed by Gareth Edwards, the screenplay by Chris Weltz and Tony Gilroy, from a story by John Knoll and Gary Whitaker. What's good? It's a Boy Dude Reviews, and today we're gonna review Star Wars: A Star Wars Story Rogue One, which was produced by Lucasfilms and distributed by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures. It acts as the first installment in the Star Wars anthology series, as well as the 8th Star Wars film released by Lucasfilms, and it cast includes Felicity Jones, Diego Luna, Ben Mendelsohn, Donnie Yen, Mads Mikkelsen, Alan Tudyk, Riz Ahmed, Zhang Wen, and Forrest Whitaker. Based on an idea first pitched by Crunchyroll 10 years before it entered development, the film was made to be different in tone and style from the traditional Star Wars films, omitting the customary opening scroll, basically getting rid of that opening scroll and the transition screen wipes that you commonly known in the Star Wars movie. And principal photography on the film began at Pinewood Studios near London in early August 2015 and wrapped up in February 2016. And the film went through extensive reshoots directed by Gilroy in mid-2016. And what's this film all about? Well, as a child, Jin's father is forcibly taken by the Empire to help them complete the Death Star, and as an adult, she joins a group of resistance fighters who aim to steal its blueprints. And the film premiered in LA on December 10th, 2016, and was released in the US on December 16th. It received positive reviews from critics, with praise for its action sequences, direction, musical score, visual effects, and darker tone, but received some criticism for its underdeveloped characters and digital recreations of actors from the original trilogy. But it made $1 billion worldwide, making it the 32nd highest-grossing film of all time, the second highest-grossing film of 2016, and the third highest-grossing film of the Star Wars franchise. And it received 2 Oscar nominations for Best Sound Mixing and Best VFX. Now, what do I think about this film? Well, I've got some views about this film, but let's talk about the good first. And the good for me is that it's nice to watch a Star Wars film without it being connected to like Luke and the Force and all that lot. It is a movie set in the universe of Star Wars, but it isn't really Star Wars at the same time. And I kind of like that, I liked how we took a break from the main series and it was more like a prequel. And it was just like this little rescue mission to get the blueprints. And it kind of shows you how gigantic the world is, how many people live in this universe, different species and people and all that lot. And yeah, it does feel more big. The movie has definitely, expanded the universe, and it's made it feel like there are other characters living in this world that have just as important story as our main characters in our main canon films, And yeah, that's what I really like about it. I also noticed that the visual effects in this film look really amazing. Like some of the fighting sequences look so gritty and grounded, and it feels very they take a lot of like war films, like war elements of the past, and really incorporate it into this film, and it really feels gritty and really great. Darth Vader in this film is way more darker and violent than any time you've ever seen him. Like they've really ramped him up in this film. Like, oh my gosh, particularly, obviously it's a big spoiler alert, but towards the end when he's trying to get the Death Star plans, he is... Ooh, you do not want to mess with this dude. You do not want to mess with him, Yeah, I really did I liked the first act a little bit more, Like I liked where it was going. It felt very mysterious at the same time. And this is where we come straight to my mixed and negatives. And the problem with this film is that the characters aren't that good. The characters, in my opinion, aren't that memorable, and I don't care for them. Like, I don't really care for any of these characters, None of them stick out, and it's just a one-off film, so we'll never see them again. So it's like, do I care? Not really. And the problem is that it's one film, but we should care about these characters, and they're just not likable. Like, there's nothing... There's just nothing about them. They are so bland. There's just nothing interesting, in the prequels, you have your Anakin, and yeah, I mean, he, like his acting, like the acting in that film where it was a little bit off, but you could root for these guys because you found them interesting, for better or for worse. You found them really interesting, and that's the problem with this film. I also kind of feel like at times the dialogue is kind of bad. I mean, don't get me wrong, the acting itself is really good, like they really do pull out of the park, like very good stuff. But when it comes to some of the dialogue, like the words, the script, it's really, really hammy. It is so hammy. If you hear some of these words, it's so hammy. And the way they deliver it, the pacing, it's so bad. It actually reminded me of Suicide Squad at times with how like they would deliver lines, like that very forced way and very off way of like delivering a line of dialogue. It felt so hammy and very bad, and it wasn't doing it for me, to be honest with you. But I feel like the biggest crime and it's the biggest negative of this film is that this film has no identity. Now with the original trilogy, that has an identity, like the visual cinematography in that film, like the dialogue, the writing, the pacing, it all had this like flair and flavor to it that it was, that the identity it had, it was fun, but gritty and dramatic at the same time, With the prequels, it felt very cartoony, I'm not gonna lie. Looking at it, it felt like a big cartoon, but it still had an identity, The visual looked very appealing, even though some of the CGI was very off, but it still was memorable to look at. The words, the quotes, like the dialogue was memorable. It was bad, but memorable. Force Awakens kind of has that, but this film doesn't. Like, not at all. Like, there is not a single line of dialogue that I remember, except for the guy who's like saying, I am one with the Force and the Force is with me. That is all I remember from this film. Everything else is just so forgettable and it's so bland, to the point where it's like, do I really want to rewatch this film again? Like, what is the point? Because I didn't enjoy it. I didn't have fun. It was boring. It was a very dull film. I'd rather watch something like Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones, where I know they are really bad films and they're very corny and cartoony, but I can have fun watching them, It's like, I can just kind of sit back and be like, not take it seriously and just be like, but this film is trying to be serious. This film is like trying to be dark and gritty and and it does kind of succeed in that, Like, spoiler alert, obviously, I wasn't expecting all the characters in the Rogue One troop to be killed off. That did surprise me. So I will give it that praise, like, wow, it did something that Star Wars films have never done before. It killed off all the main characters, which I wasn't expecting. That was very original from a Star Wars film. But, I mean, yeah, that's kind of the only thing I'd give. It's that final act when they're getting the Death Star plans and they're trying to like deliver it. That's when it starts to really become really interesting and really great, because you start, these Death Star plans are so essential, and Darth Vader's trying to get it, and the Empire's trying to get it. It's like, who's gonna get it? Who's gonna get it? Who's gonna get it? And oh my gosh, it was intense, but the rest of the film was just not. And I do not want to relive that again. Also, views on the CGI. Now, there is a lot of like Resurrection digital CGI, like Peter Cushion's character, Grand Moff Tarkin, and yeah, Lucasfilms did get permission to from the Peter Cushion's estate for using him in the film. But the problem I had with this film is that it kind of came across very odd, because it just, I know it was meant to, it was, I know these characters are meant to have like a big role in these like films, like obviously, it makes sense. But man, the CGI looks so... It doesn't look bad, it looks weird. I mean, when they're moving, especially Tarkin, it looks really plastic and 3D. It looks very CG looking. It looks so creepy. And Leia looks so plastic and robotic looking that it's so off-putting. To the point where I don't like it. But yeah, that's my take on Rogue One. It's got some good visuals at times, but it's so forgettable and bland that you just wonder why did you watch it in the first place. Well, what's the point of it? And for that, I'm just gonna give this film a... I'll give it a 5. I'm gonna give it a 5.5 out of 10. I'm gonna give it a C minus. It's not awful, it's just kind of boring. But thanks for watching this review. Like, share this video, comment down below. What's your favourite Star Wars flick? That's it, thanks for watching. Point of Review signing out.